last year I made a video all about my favourite musicals. And prior to that, I had made a video about my favourite films and TV shows too, and I said that this was going to become a thing on the channel where I'd make videos about my favourite things. Girls in white dresses with blue satin sashes. Not like that. I even asked you all to suggest topics for me to make a my favourite video on, and lots of you did, and I saved all of those suggestions in a list on my phone, and then just... Sorry about that. But today I decided it's time to delve into that list of suggestions, and consequently, here we are! About to talk about a subject suggested by the Wolf Princess, whose channel I will link at the end of the video. She said, why not make a video about my favourite fictional characters? So let's start with someone from one of my favourite books. I first read Susan Coolidge's What Katie Did when I was maybe 10 going on 11, and I was staying at my nan's house. I found it in a drawer and just was like, that looks like a really old book, I kind of want to read it, so I did. The story and the main character of Katie Carr really stuck with me. Katie is somewhere between childhood and early adulthood when we meet her at the start of the book. She's around 12 years old. She has this thing where she wants to cling on to her childhood and be silly and go on adventures, but she also recognises she wants to be a big sister to her younger siblings, and she's really passionate about trying to do the right thing, but because she's in this weird pre-teen phase of her life where she's kind of hormonal a lot and overreacts to stuff, she doesn't always give the right reaction to things, and she ends up beating herself up a lot about it. I think that's kind of universal for girls of that age. Katie's also a really human character, and when she has an accident that causes an injury that means she may never walk again, she reacts exactly how you'd expect a 12-year-old girl to react. She's angry and she's frustrated, and she has this very much, why me? Attitude, which, let's face it, you probably would if that happened. But Katie has a cousin who is in a wheelchair, and that cousin, Helen, had been to visit shortly before Katie's accident, and Katie had really looked up to her and wanted to be more like her. And she'd done this whole, I'm going to stop being so hot-headed and doing naughty things, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be like my cousin, and didn't quite go to plan. So when her cousin comes to visit her after her accident, it's a huge thing for Katie to realise, actually, now I've been put in this position where I have something in common with my cousin that I look up to so much, and she's maybe going to be able to help me. And Katie not only recovers in terms of, at the end of the book, she starts learning to walk again, but she also does a huge amount of growing up and putting some of the childish hot-headedness behind her during the course of the story. Now, my one criticism I would say is that maybe she grows up a bit too much, but, you know, it was written in the 1800s, and I'm guessing Susan probably thought, well, I need to make this mischievous little imp grow up into the kind of girl she would have been expected to be. Essentially, we should just be quiet and sweet and not have any controversial opinions or do anything that might draw attention to us. Seen and not heard and all that. Seen and not heard. I absolutely adored Buffy the Vampire Slayer when I was a teenager. By far my favourite character on Buffy was always Willow. I just hugely identified with this nerdy, awkward person. Plus, she was in desperate but unrequited love with Xander at the start of the series, and if there's one thing I know about in my life, it's unrequited love. But through the course of the show, Willow becomes a lot less awkward, she becomes comfortable in herself and who she is, and she blossoms in confidence and becomes a really vital member of the Scooby Gang. And of course, a huge part of that character development was Willow meeting Tara and falling in love with her. I love that there was no part where Willow sort of went, what? I've been in a relationship with a guy before. I've only ever been interested in guys. This is so weird. it was just really natural, and I thought that was beautiful. Now, yes, I grant you, just like I have a small criticism with the character of Katie Carr, I also have, you know, the knowledge that Willow did become addicted to magic, and she did use those powers to manipulate Tara really badly. I'm not saying that's right. And yes, Willow did, you know, become hugely evil for a season, and she murdered people. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but, you know, she was driven mad with grief, and quite frankly, if somebody killed the love of my life in front of me, I'd probably go insane too. I will seek revenge! The fact is, Willow does overcome all of this, and she realises that how she's behaving is not the right way to cope with her grief, and she's supported by her friends as she recovers. Essentially, by the end of the show, Willow has gone back to being just a slightly more mature version of the awkward nerd I always loved. As if I could sit here and make a video about my favourite fictional characters and not reference the titular character from my favourite television show. I mean, let's just get the obvious thing out of the way. The Doctor is able to travel in time and space and cheats death by just regenerating their whole body. All of those things are very cool. But more than that, the Doctor is an incredibly special character to me because the Doctor is brave and funny and clever and complex. I don't necessarily want my characters to be black and white and simple and easy to understand. People aren't always black and white and simple and easy to understand. And the Doctor is very much like that. The Doctor has a complex history which, you know, affects their behaviour. I'm saying there because although for 50 odd years the Doctor was a guy, the Doctor is now a girl, and I'm just, you know, it's easier to go with they. One of the most important reasons that I love the Doctor so much is because of the name the Doctor, which was chosen out of a need and a want to help people. We're not given a perfect character in the Doctor. The Doctor makes mistakes and gets things wrong, and you see the effect that has. That's really human. We all make mistakes sometimes. Okay, when I make a mistake, it doesn't necessarily mean a planet is destroyed, but you know. There's also something really irresistible about the Doctor's almost childlike sense of wonder and excitement about the universe and the prospect of having adventures, that it just means I can't help but love watching it. This is a subject I could talk about for a very long time, but I'm actually going to keep it super duper brief. Instead, I'm going to break my own video format, and instead of talking about just one character from a TV show or a book or whatever that I really like, I'm now going to just talk about a TV show that gets characterizations so consistently brilliantly well, it deserves a mention. Besides Doctor Who, my favourite TV show ever is something I'm still hugely obsessed by, and that is Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And one of the reasons I love that show so much is not just because people burst into song randomly, and that is how I'd like to live my life, don't judge me. It's also because the characters are just so well written. For example, the title character, Rebecca, may come across as a stereotypical OTT crazy ex-girlfriend, but there's so much more to her when you actually get to know her character. For a start, she's struggling with mental health issues, and the way it's written is not that that's an excuse for her behaviour at all, but something she has to come to terms with and recognise and realise isn't an excuse for the things she does, but may trigger some of her behaviours, and she needs to learn to control them. And that's really important because mental health is really badly represented in a lot of fiction, but Crazy Ex-Girlfriend really gets it right. Rebecca also has a very human desire to be loved, which I think most of us can probably understand. She's never really had a best friend or a really healthy relationship and she comes from a family background where her dad walked out on her and her mum spent most of her youth criticizing her for her weight or her life choices. So when she comes to West Covina and suddenly has this group of supportive friends who want to be there and help her, that's a huge thing for her, and her acceptance of the fact that she does really desperately crave that love in her life is really, really poignant and so well written and acted. Again, not wanting to spoil anything from the show, Rebecca spends the entire 4 seasons of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend trying to work out who she really is and what she wants from life and why she does some of the weird things that she does. And that's really relatable because essentially aren't we all trying to work out who we are and what we want from life? Deep down, for all the crazy behaviour that Rebecca might exhibit at times in the show, I actually think she's one of the most real and raw characters that I've ever seen on TV. And that's what I love so much about the writing on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, because all of the characters may originally, when we meet them, come across as a stereotype, but they're all slowly deconstructed so that we can see that everybody in the show has multiple layers to them, just like people that we meet in reality. Take Valencia, who we're introduced to as this very stereotypical mean girl type person who's really obsessed with her looks and not particularly pleasant to anybody. And throughout the 4 seasons, she actually becomes somebody who's an incredibly supportive friend to Rebecca. She's got a lot more up here going on than just being obsessed with her looks. She's a really amazing businesswoman. She sets herself up in her own business and makes a huge success of it. And she proves herself not to just be this very two-dimensional character, but somebody who's hugely open to whatever life throws at her. And that is shown probably most beautifully when she attends a business meeting with a client who happens to be a woman and falls in love with her. And again, just like the whole Willow thing, she never goes, "Oh my god, hang on a minute, I was into guys, this is so weird." She just meets a person, clicks with them and goes, "Yeah, okay, I want to be with this person." I also do ship Valencia and Beth just as much as I shipped Daryl and White Josh, just for the record. So yeah, I guess what I'm taking away from this video is everybody needs to go and watch Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I probably need to rewatch all 4 seasons, just immediately binge them in a day or something, but you know, I don't have time for that. I have to edit this video first. So who are your favourite fictional characters? Let me know in the comments because I'm really interested in who they are and why. And if you have any further suggestions for my favourite videos, I will add them to my list. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a bit different to my usual kind of thing. If you would like to subscribe, you can click on my floaty head up here. You can click on this icon up here to subscribe to the Wolf Princess. And last week's video is over here. I'm going to go and try to edit this video and not just binge watch Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. See you next week!